Good morning. Good morning. Okay, welcome to the library display and the meet and greet with the Attorney General, Kamala Harris. I want to encourage everybody to come in and sit down and find a seat. We've got plenty of room up here. What I'd like to do is just introduce the program a little bit and say some thank yous. Many of you are already in my Asian American Studies classes, but I also see some new people. My name is Janine Fujioka, and I teach Asian Studies and Asian American Studies here at Laney. And I'd like to welcome all of you on behalf of the Ethnic Studies Department. I hope you'll have a chance to look at our display, which is called What Mask Are You Wearing?
My name is Bert Dragan, and I'm the chair of the Journalism Department here at Laney College. And I get the pleasure of introducing our Attorney General, Kamala Harris. I just want to share a quick quote I heard this morning. I learned that today, October 11th, 1884 is the birthday of a great American, Eleanor Roosevelt. Who, and I heard a quote from her this morning I thought was wonderful. She said, "We wouldn't be concerned so much with what people think of us if we knew how seldom they do." And I was also asked at the 11th hour to get a little gift for the Attorney General, and I wanted something with the Laney logo. So this is actually a collector's item now because it's no longer manufactured. It's a shot glass. With the Laney logo, and if things get desperate, you could probably sell it on eBay for $1. So welcome to Laney College.
Welcome everyone. My name is Evelyn Lord and I'm the head librarian here. And I have with me a couple people from the library, Shirley Costin and Andrew Skinner-Demps, who've been instrumental in putting this event together. I also hope that everybody had a chance to enjoy some of the pastries today. And if you haven't, I think there's still plenty left. Those pastries were made by students of Laney College in our culinary arts department under the direction of Chef Lorianne Raji. The library is the heart of the campus, a place that nourishes the minds of our students. A good mind and a good heart go very well together, as demonstrated by the original, often moving, and thought-provoking work of the students of the Asian and Asian American Studies program in this month's exhibit. We are honored to celebrate this remarkable exhibit and to welcome our guest, the Honorable Kamala Harris, Attorney General of California, whose own combination of brilliance and compassion exemplifies the possibilities of what all of us can strive to achieve and contribute as we make our way in the world. Thank you and welcome.
And these flowers are presented on behalf of the Laney Library staff.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Great to see you here. Thanks for being here. Let me introduce myself. My name is Pumi Sayevong. I'm the director of the APAS program. And APAS stands for the Asian and Pacific American Student Success. We're actually located right above us on the 3rd floor. And it's grateful to be here. I'm glad for the invitation to attend this event. I'm really glad to see the students here and their displays. I've seen the displays every single day because my office is upstairs. And so every day I'm always impressed by the different ideas that you guys have included in there. I mean, it includes and expresses what you've learned, but I think what's more importantly is what you're experiencing and then the new pieces of information about your own experiences and how you feel all that culminates into the new level of success that you guys are creating for yourself. And that really reflects not only on your group and yourself, but I think on Laney College. And for me, it's great to be a part of that. The diversity that's here, but also diversity of your ideas. I'm really happy to be a part of that. So what we do at APAS, for those who aren't aware of it, although we represent, we get a federal grant to support Asian Pacific Americans, we open up our programs, we try to come up with some innovative ideas and best practices, such that we can then spread it out to all the programs so all the students can benefit from it. So a lot of the workshops and programs that we provide are available not just to the API community, but also to all students of Laney. So we work really hard on both ends, but because we are a small program, we try to come up with some innovative ideas, try them out, and when it does work, we share it. So that's a part that really drew me to this program, and I think our students and the faculty that I've been working with are really benefiting from that shared collaboration, and then just trying to be innovative about what we try to do, because every year we get a new generation of students who come in, and we want to work with them, and because they have different needs. And so for that, I'm very appreciative of not just Laney, who understood that there was a need, because APIs on this campus, for those who don't know, make up 1/3 of the student population. And at the national level, the API populations have been the fastest growing racial group in America, from like about 20-something%, in some counties 200%. And so we're seeing that across the country. But what we also see is that within the smaller grains of all the subpopulations, and that's the biggest challenge here. We have so many unique populations within that the larger API community. And Laney recognizes that within the subpopulation, there's so many students who have special needs, who have some Asians who have never gone to college, and their parents have never gone to college. So we recognize that, and we want to give those students and their families the first opportunity to see and have access to that level of success that a lot of people have been talking about. A lot of your friends and what we see in the media have achieved at the level of success, but we want to also give those here in the local community that same level of access and same opportunity to succeed. So thank you again for being here. And in closing, I want to bring up Tomoko and Min Xuan and Yan Ping to offer the Attorney General Kamala Harris token of appreciation for being here today. We really appreciate for you to just to show up and kind of get an idea of what we do here, and to see how the students express themselves. Thank you so much.
Well, I have the honor of following all these wonderful individuals. Professor Janine Fujioka, thank you for taking the leadership, working with our students to make certain that each one of these magnificent individuals' voices, ideas, feelings, understandings, experiences, expertise is illuminated in a very remarkable way. And thank you for choosing to ask one of our extraordinary leaders in this state, and I would say with absolute certainty in this country, to be here. And distinguished woman, every time I see you, I feel like I'm looking at an old spirit. I know I'm looking at a sister. And when I look at you, I see the love, one of the loves of this campus, Mary Lewis. I know she was your godmother. I know you called her aunt. I know you and your sister adored her, and I had the honor to listen to how you played and laughed and cried around her. And it's an honor for you to come back to this campus that she loves so deeply, so dearly. I want to say to Bert Dragan, thank you for opening this up. You may not know, Bert's been here longer than anyone else on this campus, and because he loves this campus. He is the reason why the Laney Tower is an award-winning paper, because he makes certain that students like you have an opportunity to share your voice. So Bert, you are an exemplar of what it means to be a professional who cares about a community and is unwavering in terms of making certain that students' voices are heard, understood, and unencumbered by nonsense. It's an honor. Evelyn Lord, Shirley Costin, if it wasn't for the two of you, especially Shirley Costin, this campus would have changed remarkably many years ago. We wouldn't have a lot of the land that's still on this campus. That women fought behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, with people to make certain this campus is what it is. So following you all, including Pumi, who I had the honor to hire to support us, along with Tomoko, is just an absolute pleasure. But more importantly, to stand in front of you students and be able to ask for this extraordinary student who was here with us, to have her sister and her 2 children be here, and ask them to stand so we could all see them. And I'm supposed to remember their names: Jean, Tamiko, Nicole. They're here. Their presence here remind us of this woman who would walk around and she would look at you and she would say, "Oh, I just love you." And then she walked around, "I just love you." I mean, she said that to everybody. And she was working with Dr. Mary Lewis from the day that she met her, making certain that her classes had the support that they needed. So Janine, thank you for honoring those 2 extraordinary women. And I want to ask you to come forward so we can bring this lovely woman up so that she can do her due, because that's why we're here. We want to hear you. But as you come forward, I want to give you this small token of our appreciation so you can put everything in it.
I know. I'm just going to walk with all kinds of swag. This is wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, first, I just wanted to thank all of you students. You know, I'm so proud of what you all are doing here. And I saw the exhibits that you've created, and I had a chance to talk with a couple of you about the passion that is behind the work that you've produced. And I've had a chance to see, just walking around, how you all are doing an extraordinary job of understanding that we must never forget our history, ever, if we are going to be those people who will live and be the legacy of those who came before us and make them proud and make their struggles to have been worthwhile. You all are the future. You are the leaders. You all are role models. And so, by the way, welcome to the Role Model Club. And to be a role model is a point of distinction, but it can also be tough. To be a role model means that there are folks who may be your family members, your neighbors, maybe even your classmates, who watch you, who pay attention to how you do what you do, and in that way you inspire them. But being a role model can also be difficult, because you know that people are relying on you. And to be the kind of role model that you students are also means that often you will be in a room where you're the only one that looks like you, or you're the only one who has had the experience in life that is unique to you. And so I want to remind you of something, because I've been there and I still have that experience. The education you are getting here at Laney, the support that you are getting, I want you all to look around this room and understand that at times you may feel like you're the only one like you, but look around this room and remember that there's a whole community of folks that are supporting you and will always be in those rooms with you when you are doing what you are doing, which is making us proud. So continue to do what you're doing in terms of excelling in your studies, but also as it relates to the ethnic studies. Continue to be proud and understand that you stand on the shoulders of great people who look at you and know your greatness and expect a lot from you. So I'm very proud of you. I am here because, well, one, because Professor Fujioka reached out to me and said, please come. And then she reached out to me again, and then again, and then again. And I got to the point where I just couldn't say no. But really, I'm kind of kidding. I'm here because, one, I was actually a student at Laney. I took summer classes at Laney. So I know Laney's campus. And I'm here also because of my godmother, Dr. Mary Agnes Lewis, who taught here. and was actually one of the founders of the Black Studies Department at San Francisco State. And so in learning your history, you should remember something. The Bay Area is the home to the beginning of a very important movement, which was about a struggle for civil rights. In fact, my parents met when they were students at Berkeley in the 60s, and they were active in the civil rights movement. My sister Maya and I, we joke that we grew up surrounded by a bunch of adults who spent full time marching and shouting about this thing called justice. And in fact, growing up in that environment and in this Bay Area, I couldn't help but be impacted by that movement and that struggle and that fight and that commitment to equality and justice. And in fact, that's why I decided to become a lawyer. Because the heroes of the civil rights movement, among the many, I'm going to talk a little bit about Dr. King and the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington, but among the heroes of the civil rights movement were the architects of the civil rights movement, and they were the lawyers. And that was Thurgood Marshall and Charles Hamilton Houston and Constance Baker Motley. We can never forget the role that women played in these struggles. And it was they, as lawyers, who understood that the skill of this profession of law allows us to translate the passion from the streets to the courtrooms of our country. And in those courtrooms do the important work of reminding folks who sometimes need reminding of the great promise our country articulated in 1776. We are all equal and should be treated that way. And that was at the heart of the civil rights movement and all of those struggles. It was about saying, not that we're going to work against the system, but that we're going to be patriots. So what am I talking about? I think there are two definitions of what it means to be a patriot. One definition is you defend your country whatever it does, or you just defend your country based on its traditions. And then there's another kind of patriot, which is the kind of patriot I am and I know you are, which is someone who loves their country enough to fight for the ideals of our country. Loves your country enough to fight to make it a better place. And why do we need to do that? Well, we know if we walk around and look at these boards, we know. We know that their history once subordinated so many of our Asian communities. There are some in particular about the Chinese community in California and in the United States that were treated like animals, literally. Filipinos, same thing. We have a history of that. The law, as you all I'm sure learned, was such at one point that Chinese Americans could not own property. We have a history that said that black people, African Americans, were less than whole. They were not full people, and for that reason could not vote. For that reason could not have equal rights. You all know the stories. For that reason were subjected to separate schools, separate water fountains, and widespread harassment and oppression and second-class status. Those facts are part of the history of our country. But it was people like you who fought for the ideal of the country that allowed us to change and become better and get rid of those prejudices and those biases. It was folks like you all, and by the way, all of these movements had been fueled by the students. The students, you all are so powerful. And it's the students that fuel these movements around saying, we're going to march in the streets if we need to, peacefully. We're going to study, we're going to get together and have debates, and we're going to publish articles in our school newspaper, and we're going to make sure our voices are heard. We're going to make sure our voices are heard among our classmates, in our community, and when we go home, we're going to talk to our families about it too. When we go home, we're going to help teach our families what we learned in places like Laney. Because part of being a role model and part of all this process is that you're not only a student, but you're also an educator. And so that brings me to Mary Lewis, Dr. Mary Lewis. part of what happened in the civil rights movement, so Aunt Mary, that's my Aunt Mary, was there with my mother and my father and other family members and extended family, and they were marching right in the streets of Oakland and Berkeley. They told stories of how at one time they were marching and the hoses got turned on them, right? But they didn't give up, and they fought, and they achieved successes. So another phase and very important part of the civil rights movement, though, is the part that you all are participating in actively right now, which is ethnic studies. So it started, and Aunt Mary helped develop the Black Studies Department at San Francisco State, which was a model for that kind of approach around the country. And through that came Asian ethnic studies, came women's studies, because there was an understanding that we need to have books and writings and literature that documents the experience of all these folks. It should not just be the stories that you hear your grandparents tell, or maybe they don't tell because they're ashamed to talk about it. We have to remember always the experience that these various groups have had in our country, so we make sure that we will always fight to not go backward, and so that we will always remember that it wasn't very long ago that we had incredible inequity and inequality in this country. And there's some making up that needs to be done. We need to look, for example, at the connection between those experiences and who has not yet gone to college because they grew up in a time where they didn't have access to equal education. We need to talk about the need to uplift our students. We need to look at facts like, I've been looking at this issue of elementary school truancy. Why am I looking at that? Because I did a study of who my homicide victims were who were under the age of 25, and I found that 94% of them were high school dropouts. And when I looked at who was a chronically and habitually truant student, I saw that 40% are elementary school students. And when I look at who's in the prison system in the United States, I saw that 82% of prisoners in the United States are high school dropouts. When I look at a statistic that tells me that for an African American man between the age of 30 and 34, if he's a high school dropout, he is two-thirds likely, two-thirds of that population, if it's a high school dropout African American man, two-thirds are likely to have been in prison, be in prison, or dead. So when we look at the importance of ethnic studies, it's about also saying it matters, and we need to track it, and we need to pay attention to it, and we need to make sure that we study it in a way that we can improve systems and change systems. I was in DC for the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington. It was a very exciting time. So the March on Washington, as we know, 50 years ago, was a march that Dr. Martin Luther King led, along with many, many leaders in civil rights. The beauty of that civil rights movement was exactly what you all are doing. It was all about a coalition. It was black, it was white, it was Asian, it was Latino. It was people who understood that there may seem to be differences among us, but when it comes down to it, we have everything in common. When we talk about our need to fight for equality, fight for freedom, that march was also about a fight for jobs and economic equality. We all have everything in common in terms of the fact that we want to make sure that our elders are treated with dignity, and we want to make sure our children are safe and can get access to an education. So the March on Washington 50 years ago was about that, and 50 years later, now, it is still about that. It is about saying that we have to be committed to seeing that, yes, we've made great strides and great accomplishments. Who would have thought that the Attorney General of the state of California, for the first time is a woman, for the first time is African American, for the first time is Asian American? Who would have thought? But how long does it take for us to keep doing these firsts, right? We got a lot of work to do. I don't want to be the first anymore. I certainly don't want you all to be the first. And so part of the study that we do in terms of ethnic studies is also about knowing where we come from, so we can have the pride to know we come from great people. We come from great people. And so that is part of why we study the way we do, to remind you of that, and to remind you that you can do and be anything you want to be. And when I think about the importance of the March on Washington and Dr. Martin Luther King, I can't help but think about a saying that Coretta Scott King had. And she, of course, was the wife and then the widow of Dr. King. And she said, "The struggle and the fight for civil rights must be fought and won with each generation." Now, what was she talking about? One of the things she was saying is that she was reminding us it is the very nature of the fight for civil rights that you have to continually fight for it. The gains will never be permanent. It's just the nature of it. It's kind of like, your nails grow, you got to cut them, you just got to do what you got to do. It's the nature of it. So the second part of her advice then was, since it's the nature of it, don't despair. Don't be mad. Don't be overwhelmed. Don't feel small. Because it's just the nature of it. So let's keep fighting and have the energy to do it. And when she said that, she was speaking to each one of us in our generation. And so I say that to you all. Because your generation carries the responsibility to do exactly what she said. The fight for civil rights must be fought and won with each generation. And so you are now the generation that has that responsibility. And when I look around this room and I see what you all have worked on and I hear the stories about how well you are doing, I know we are in very good hands. And for that reason, I'm so proud of you. And if Aunt Mary were standing here, she would be so incredibly proud of you. So congratulations. Keep doing what you do. Be proud of your accomplishments. Don't let anyone make you think that, oh, you're just too good and you just do what you're doing. Do what you are doing. Because people need you. I need you. We need you to be successful and to go on and claim your role in leadership in this country. So thank you all. Thank you.
Ms. Harris, do you have time for a few questions? Sure. Okay. All right, let's open it up for some questions real briefly. And we've kind of run out of time, but some quick questions for the Attorney General.
Hot in here.
Raise your hand.
Yes.
As you all know, students here at Laney have to balance work, family, and school. So what advice do you have for students at Laney College who are struggling with this?
Yeah. Well, you got to get it done. You got to get it done, right? And it's an old saying, cliche, nothing good comes easy. I think it's important to always remember that I think we've misled ourselves to believe that hard work is not fun or not good. Hard work is good. And hard work can be fun. And is a whole lot better than being bored. So just keep doing what you're doing and know that it's going to pay off. I promise you that. And I promise you also that you all, a piece of advice. As you're learning what you learn, start to be aware of what you're really enjoying in terms of the subject matter. Start to be aware of the thing that when you start reading it, you actually want to read more. Or the thing that you think about in the middle of the day or night past the time that you've been here. Or the thing that you want to debate or argue. Identify for yourself what you have a passion for, what you're enjoying, and follow that. Don't decide that your goal should be to have a profession based on a title or based on a salary or based on fame and fortune. Because all of those things will come if you are engaged in a pursuit that you enjoy, because it's going to be hard work regardless. But if you're doing what you enjoy doing, you will do very well. And all those other things will come.
Thank you.
You're welcome. How you doing?
My name's Arthur.
What's your name? Arthur what?
Yeah, Arthur. I'm with my group right here. We are the Laney College Foster Youth.
Uh-huh.
It's our little cohort.
That's
All
fabulous.
We meet B to B, North Being. And we have a question for you. It's a really simple, cliche question. What are your future goals?
Who planted you in here? You know, I'm a little superstitious. I believe that you have to do what's right in front of you and do it well, and the next thing will come. And I've seen a whole lot of people, in fact, that are so focused on that thing out there, they trip on this thing right here. And I also believe that, you know, a day is a very long time, and there's a lot you can get done today. And then the next thing will come. So I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I'm running for re-election as Attorney General. The election will be next year. And in the work that I'm doing, it's been about focusing on an issue like elementary school truancy. So let me tell you, I am the chief law enforcement officer of the biggest state in this country.
You are?
Yes, I am. I have a badge. Okay? Right. So, as the chief law enforcement officer in the largest state in this country, I have focused on a number of things. I focused on the foreclosure crisis. California was the hardest hit state in the country. We often had, over the last few years, 7 or 8 of the top 10 cities in the United States hardest hit by foreclosure. So I decided to focus on that. Why? Because it's the right thing to do. Why? Because the families who were being foreclosed upon reminded me of my family and those I grew up with. Folks who worked very hard to buy their home. Folks who, for that home represented their dignity, their hard work, the payoff for their hard work. It represented their peace. It represented everything that is about pride. I would tell people, the people I'm talking about are, have you known people who are proud of their lawn? Right? Of course. That's our families, right? That's who we were talking about. And they were losing their homes. And in large part because of conduct that took place on Wall Street that involved predatory lending practices. What does that mean? They would try and sell refinancing or mortgages to families. Let me tell you who those families tended to be. African American, Latino, and immigrant families. So I decided to focus on that. I entered into negotiation with the 5 big banks of the United States. They were offering California $2 to $4 billion. Sounds like a lot of money, but it wasn't compared to the harm, because I traveled up and down the state. And so I looked at the $2 to $4 billion, and I said, that does not represent a fair deal. In fact, those are crumbs on the table, and I walked out. It was very controversial. I walked out of the meeting with the 5 big banks. And then we decided to pursue what we needed to do in California, including sue, where appropriate. And eventually, they said, well, you're running a hard bargain. Yep. Because there are people behind these numbers who deserve to have dignity and deserve to have compensation for the wrongdoing. And we ended up bringing back to California $20 billion. Right? So it's about doing work like that. It's about doing work like focusing on elementary school truancy. I think for too long, our society has been upside down, and we have marginalized issues that impact children. We have decided, those are small issues, I guess because they're small people. We've decided, if you care about children's issues, you must kind of be soft, or you must be a parent or a woman, or just like cute, cuddly things. Instead of understanding that if you deal with issues that are impacting children right now, you will deal with all the big issues that relate to everything from public safety to public health to public services and workforce development. I've been focusing on the issue of privacy and technology. I mean, this is another thing that is just so exciting about your generation. Because let me tell you, when I came out of school, I had to compete with people who were doing the work the way it had been done for 50 plus years. When I was in college, when I was in law school, we didn't have laptops, or we certainly didn't have smartphones, right? Or pads and all that. So I had to come out, when I came out, I had to compete with people who had been doing the work the way it had been done for a long time. And so there were a lot of people who are a lot more senior than me. You all are going to be coming out into the workforce in a whole new world because of technology. So make sure you're learning as much as you can about how technology is used beyond the games that you're playing on the thing, right? Because what it is doing, let me tell you, I think of it like this. There was the creation of fire and the wheel and electricity and technology. It's a game changer. It's changing business models across the board. It's changing the way people think. It's changing the way they communicate. It's changing the way they do business. You all are coming out and will be coming into the workforce in a very, very exciting time. So own and claim the power that you have around just the specific thing of technology. So I'm doing stuff on that. We're doing stuff on human trafficking. I went down to the southernmost county in California called Imperial County because I wanted to visit a place called Calexico, which is right there on the border with Mexico. On the other side of the border is Mexicali, which is an interesting change on words, right? Because I wanted to see the tunnels. I'm a trial lawyer. I like to go to the scene. I saw tunnels that they still hadn't demolished, and then tunnels of some that had been demolished, but I saw the photographs. Some of them had walls as smooth as the walls in Laney's library, lined with lighting and air conditioning, which made a very obvious point clear. Those tunnels were about some folks making a whole lot of money in the trafficking of guns and drugs and human beings. The big burly guards down at the places down at the tunnels were telling me about children as young as 5 years old being trafficked through those tunnels. So I've been doing some work on that. And the work that I've been doing includes, I did a report. I decided to do an analysis of what is the state of human trafficking in California. And I published that report last year. And I wasn't surprised to find, of the victims of human trafficking, 72% of the victims of human trafficking in California are born right here in the United States. I found that there was a direct connection between some of the street gangs and trafficking. Because the gangs have figured out that sometimes it is lower risk, higher profit to traffic in human beings than it is trafficking guns and drugs. So I've been doing a lot of work with law enforcement to talk about how we need to outreach to victims of human trafficking, who are invariably African American, Latino, and Asian. And what we need to do to change the system so that when that victim of human trafficking is picked up because she's prostituting, that we realize she's actually a victim, and instead of treating her like a criminal, we acknowledge and understand the experience she's having and get her services and support, and then go after the ones who are the real bad guys, who are the ones doing the trafficking. So this is the kind of work I've been doing, and I enjoy it, because I do believe we're making a difference. So I'm present and I'm focused, because there is a whole lot to be done. And I want to remind you all that when I was talking about you all being role models and leaders, I'm not talking about you being a leader tomorrow. You're a leader right now. At every stage of your life, including right now, you have a responsibility for leadership. And there is a role of leadership that you can take on. And that's where it's about also, again, owning your power to know that if you get involved in something and engaged in something, you can make a difference. So think about all of the things that are issues that need to be addressed, and then decide where you're going to fit in to working on some of that. Because there's a lot to get done. Yes?
Regarding human trafficking and drug trafficking, you pointed out there are street gangs right here in California that's connecting that route towards Mexico. I just wanted to know if you're aware that nonprofit organizations such as Muslim Youth Court that offers second chances for youth that would ultimately drop out of high school and become that 70% you're talking about.
That's right.
What is your input and what is your future priorities on changing California's ways, dropping out, becoming a street gang member?
So part of so I looked into the issue of elementary school truancy, and I decided I was going to do an analysis of the state of elementary school truancy in California. So I just published that report last week, and you can get it online at my website, which is Office of Attorney General of California. And what I found, and it breaks it down by county, breaks it down by race and age, but children as young as kindergarten through 6th grade in some places are missing 40% of the school year. We had one school, elementary school, that 92% of the children, elementary school children, were truant. So part of the purpose in doing the report was to highlight the issue, because nobody's thinking about these kids, and for a number of reasons. But we need to highlight this issue, because the bottom line is this. Let me share something with you all that you may not know. 3rd grade reading level. 3rd grade reading level, it's well documented, researched, and understood. If a child by 3rd grade is not at 3rd grade reading level, they drop off. Like, there's no catching up. So what we would see, and again, in terms of the demographic, you're talking about black kids, Latino kids, Asian kids, immigrant children, who the parents are overwhelmed, right? Trying to barely hold it together. So they've got this young child, and they think, oh, it won't be a big deal if he or she misses school. They'll catch up. But in fact, all the evidence is to the contrary. So they don't mean bad. They don't intend to be a bad parent. They think that child will catch up. They're young enough, they'll catch up. The fact is, if by 3rd grade they're not at 3rd grade reading level, they'll never catch up. There's a direct correlation between 3rd grade reading level and who will be a high school dropout. And I already told you our statistics in terms of who's in prison, who's in the system. So the purpose of the report was to highlight the issue and then encourage communities, including school districts, to get together and deal with it and prioritize it and treat it like a big issue instead of a small issue. And so one of the things in looking closely that I found is that school districts aren't keeping consistent records. I will tell you something. In your leadership, you also must appreciate that you have got to have the endurance to embrace the mundane. The mundane, the little details, right? Because you can have a plan to end world hunger. But if you actually don't embrace the mundane details, you will never end world hunger, right? The details of things matter. So the detail behind the elementary school truancy is that they're actually not keeping adequate records. So we're not even keeping track. California, as I learned, is one of four states in the United States that don't keep statewide records on elementary school truancy, right? So we plan to do something about that. So this is how I approach issues, which is let's look at it from the macro and then let's break it down into its discrete parts. So people want to talk about, the crime problem in the United States. They want to talk about, I'm afraid I need more cops on the street and all of that. So let's break down the crime problem in the United States. Let's look at who is in the system as a perpetrator or a victim. Where were they before that step? Where were they before that step? So one of the places that we can look at as a discrete starting point is elementary school truancy. So that's why I'm approaching it that way. And I agree with you. The best model for dealing with a lot of these issues is it's about community coming together with government, with nonprofits, and focusing together on the solution. Yes?
My name is Karen, and so you were speaking about us entering like a new world, into the workforce and how different it's going to be. Have you heard about the core curriculum that they are teaching in middle school now, where everyone learns like at the same level?
Mm-hmm.
And so they have to, basically they're making the students like do extra work, and they're replacing replacing STAR tests with some, I don't know the name of the test,
Mhm.
but now it's all like computerized. So last night I went to my little brother's back to school night.
What grade is he in?
Ninth grade. And I was asking the teacher about it, but she didn't really give me any information about it. I graduated high school 2 years ago, so it was like the normal curriculum, but now they're changing it. So do you have any advice for me? On,
For your brother or for yourself?
For me, how I can help out like my little brother.
Well, first of all, that's wonderful that you're doing it. And you're doing it exactly the right way, which is to go to the school and be present. You know, we really want to encourage, what I've seen is that, you know, there are a lot of parents who are young parents who are, you know, didn't enjoy school, maybe even dropped out themselves. And so they don't want to go to school. They don't want to go to the school and talk to the principal because they didn't like doing it when they were a kid. And that's the first mistake. You've got to go to the school and talk with the school about how they are educating your child. And go and talk with the teachers and sit down with your brother and go through what is your homework and what are you doing. That's the first and most important step. And it sounds like you're doing that and carrying a heavy load, but it's going to make a huge difference in his life. Yeah. Yes?
Could you share some experience when you was undergrad, because the law school is grad school, but for example, we are all college students, we are maybe a freshman or sophomore. What can we do, and what's your experience when you were at our stage?
Do what you all are obviously doing, which is just treat your brain like a sponge and just absorb everything you can. You know, be present when you're in class. You know, be present. Learn, listen, read. You know, read the newspaper. You can get it online, or I see a bunch of them on the rise. Read the newspaper. I would like to see you all, maybe every Sunday, figure out how you can get your hands on the New York Times and read at least one article from each section. Right? Read it. So the New York Times has it's a fabulous newspaper, and so read an article from the front page, because that'll be about something that is a big world event or a big topic for the country. Read something from the politics section. You need to know what's going on in politics, because what's going on in politics makes decisions about things like what's going to be your curriculum in school and everything else. Read something from the arts section. Know about arts. It's fabulous. There's so much happening, right? Read something from the sports section. All of you, girls, boys, everybody, right? Know what's going on. Sports is a big part of our country. Read something from the style section. What's the latest style coming out of Paris? You know, what's Puffy doing these days, right? Read something from, just one article from each section. That is my homework that I give you. Or in any newspaper, but find a newspaper, and hopefully a major newspaper, and at least once a week, if not more, and I'd prefer once a day. Read an article from each section, and you will then start to understand the world that you all are entering. Because what you're going to read about is literally the world you're entering. This is what's going on in the world. This is what's going on in your country. This is what's going on in your state. You know, and read an article from the local section. That would be my strong advice to you. Okay, you had a question.
Yeah, I wanted to know what your opinion was on the 26 states who have denied, who have declined to extend Medicaid, thereby cutting off 2/3 of poor blacks.
Yeah, you know, that's a great question. So, and it's about healthcare basically in our country. And you know, so one of my roles as Attorney General was when I came in office. It was actually unfortunate, but it was almost straight down party lines. The Republican Attorneys General were challenging the constitutionality of the Affordable Care Act, which the president had passed to make sure that everyone would have access, equal access and affordable access to health care. Part of what the President's Affordable Care Act did, is they call it Obamacare, Affordable Care Act, same thing, was that it said that students and young people up to the age of 26, not just 18, can be on their parents' health insurance plan. And there was a group of AGs that challenged the constitutionality of it. And so we fought to defend it, and we won. What you see now, and I'm sure you all have been paying attention, is that they've shut down the federal government. Because there are a group of people in Congress right now that are trying to do everything they can to demolish one of this president's most significant achievements, which is changing the healthcare system in the United States. And that's the point of your question. Healthcare, again, we talked about those discrete entry points where if you have it or you don't, it will make a huge difference in terms of which way everything else goes. Healthcare is one of those things. And that relates from beginning prenatal care to pediatric care to healthcare down the line. If you don't have your health and access to meaningful health care, you cannot live with dignity, because you literally can't function. And poor people pay the real price. In a civilized country, it should not be that you only get meaningful health care because you've got money. In a civilized country, there should be an understanding that if you have a commitment to a quality of life that is about equality and people being treated as equals, they should have equal access to meaningful health care. And so what we're seeing right now is in our country, I think what should be for all of us a source of great embarrassment, which is people trying to shut down the system for political reasons instead of based on merit. Because if you look at the merit of it, things like Medicare and Medicaid and having access to affordable health care makes all the difference on whether you're going to be able to go to work or go to school and be functional and productive or not. So let's keep following that. Yes?
Hi, my name is Trayvon. I was wondering, do you hope to be a Supreme Court justice one day?
You didn't hear it? You guys are working together on this? I'm good where I am right now. I'm good. I'll take one more question. Yes?
I'm wondering, what are your hopes and dreams for the city of Oakland?
That's a wonderful question. What are my hopes and dreams for the city of Oakland? Well, the city of Oakland is the place of my birth. I was born right down at Kaiser, Oakland. Yes, I was. And Oakland is a beautiful city that has received, a bad kind of reputation over the years that is completely undeserved. Somebody was asking me earlier about, tell me who the great people from Oakland are. There is so much that has come out of Oakland that has changed the way the country, if not the world, thinks about things like civil rights. Oakland is a beautiful city. You look at it, we've got hills, we've got, lakes, it's a beautiful city. And my hope for Oakland is the same hope that I have for children and folks, which is that people understand that you've got to hold it to a high standard. So let me tell you what I mean. It has been my experience that if you expect a lot from people and give them the tools to achieve it, they will jump to that bar. If you don't expect much, people will not aspire to do anything because they know you don't expect much. We've got to improve the expectation of what Oakland can be and what Oakland is, and understand Oakland is one of the great cities of the United States. And then let's hold ourselves to that standard. And that's my hope for Oakland, that we hold ourselves and others hold us to the standard at which we really are, instead of lowering the bar and then lowering expectations about what can be achieved. Standards have everything to do, I believe, with outcomes. Everything to do. It is often a function of what you think you can be that you will end up being. If you don't think you can be much, it's going to work out that way. So my hope for Oakland is the same hope that I have, and I don't even need to have. As a hope, I know it's going to happen. That we all hold ourselves to a very high standard and walk that way and act that way.
and then be that way. All right. I'll see y'all again. Before this genius of spirit and mind leaves, and Janine, come back up, please, let me ask you, as students, did you learn a great deal over the last just 40 minutes? Raise your hand. Did you feel inspired over the last 25 minutes? You can scream or you can clap if you want. You don't have to just raise your hand. Some of you want to dance. Do you feel like you're ready to do more than you had anticipated you would do before you came in here? Yes. Really? Are you on the bandwagon for her to be more than just a representative in the state of California? Janine, you have to be given credit for encouraging this woman to come back to her home. She still has residency here, let's be clear. And so thank you, Janine. And you students have to be given credit for doing the work that inspired her to want to come back here. So let's give it up for you. Honorable sister, I expect only continued greatness. And I want to let you know that I'll also be meditating, praying, dancing, and singing in support of you, because I know you're going to places that could be harmful and that could have landmines. I also know that where you intend to go is to create more possibilities, hope, inspiration, and opportunities for the vast majority of folks on, not just in Oakland, California, in this country, but really on the planet. So I'm inspired by you, and I am deeply affected by your own personal genius.
Okay, everybody, that concludes our presentation. Have a good weekend. I'll see you in class next week.
All these South Philly students who were attacked in mass by like the other students there, it was very unfortunate, and it was sort of ridiculous how large scale the attacks became before the police and other authorities finally came in. I mean, they needed students to protest for like a week before, like 80 students protest. And it's really sad. I'm glad we don't have that here in the Bay Area, and it makes me very happy to know that the Bay Area is actually one of the safer areas for racial diversity.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up here.
In Oakland?
Yeah, born and raised here in Oakland.
Me too. Talk to me about this. What did you do here?
It was basically we were. Yeah, like talking about the. How there are people who we Asian Americans can respect. They may not have been born here, but they moved here and made something of themselves.
Right.
Like,